The moment those two fake HOA cops kicked in our front door, splintering the frame, booth slamming across the hardwood, Grandpa didn't panic, didn't yell, didn't even step back. He just lifted that old double-barrel shotgun like it weighed nothing, planted his feet, and pointed it dead at their chests. And suddenly, the men who kicked the door in weren't so brave anymore. Before we dive in, comment which country you're watching from. Let's see how far this story travels. Because to understand why those two men were in our hallway, why they thought they had the right to storm inside, and why my 80-year-old grandfather was already ready for them, you need the truth. And it started 40 years ago, long before I was even born. Back then, our street wasn't controlled by any HOA. It was a small, quiet, rural road lined with family homes. All of them built long before developers started carving the area into communities. Grandpa bought this house after returning from overseas military service. The land was his pride. A fresh start, a peaceful place, something he'd earned. Then came the company that built the Pine Arbor Estates HOA. They expanded fast, too fast. They bought up empty lots, repaved the road, bribed half the existing residents with promises of increased property value, and pressured the rest into signing paperwork they didn't fully understand. One by one, the houses on our road flipped into HOA control. All except Grandpa's. He refused signing. He had the original survey maps, the original deed, and the boundary line showing his property was not inside their development. For years, the HOA ignored him. They built their fancy gates down the street, put up their signs, sent out newsletters, all while Grandpa lived peacefully on his exempt lot. Then 3 months ago, everything changed. A new HOA president, Karen took over. Younger, power-hungry, convinced she could push Grandpa around because old people don't fight back. She sent warnings, then fees, then violations, then threats. Every notice had the same bold claim. Your home now falls under Pine Arbor HOA authority. Grandpa sent them certified copies of his exemption papers. Karen ignored them, telling the board Grandpa's documents were outdated. Then came the final letter. If you refuse access, we will conduct a mandatory compliance inspection. Do not interfere. Grandpa laughed at that one. But I should have known Karen wasn't just bluffing. Because this morning, while Grandpa read in the den and I made breakfast, the house shook with 2 violent booms, fists slamming into the front door hard enough to rattle the hinges. I froze. Grandpa didn't. He stood up slowly, slid his bookmark in place, and whispered, "Stay back." The pounding got louder. Then the door cracked, then kick. It flew open. 2 men in black HOA cop jackets stormed inside, like they owned the place. No badge numbers, no authority, just arrogance. The first one shoved the door wider and barked. "This property is under mandatory inspection. Step aside." The second reached toward his belt. Maybe for a taser. Maybe for something worse. And before either could take another step, Grandpa cocked the shotgun. The sound echoed through the entire house. "You boys picked the wrong door," he said, voice low. "Steady, dangerous." The 2 men froze, because they finally realized they weren't the only ones ready for a fight. And what happens next? They'll wish they never took a single step inside. The 2 fake HOA cops froze. The second Grandpa stepped forward from the hallway. Shotgun raised, elbows locked, eyes cold and steady like he was back in a place far more dangerous than this living room. For a moment, the house went dead silent. No breathing, no movement, no courage left in either of those men. Then the one closest to the door swallowed hard and slowly raised his hands. His fingers trembled like the air itself weighed too much. "Okay, old man," he stammered. "Relax. We were cooperating." His partner followed, lifting his hands too, chin shaking like he was trying and failing to hide the fear crawling up his spine. To anyone else, it might have looked like surrender. But Grandpa wasn't anyone else. He saw it all. The twitch in their jaws, the way their boots shifted, the way their eyes darted, not with fear, but with calculation. Men who looked like they were planning something stupid. And Grandpa called it out instantly. "Don't," he growled. "Neither of you move a damn muscle." For a second, they listened. Then the smaller one cracked. His eyes flicked toward Grandpa, then toward his partner, then down toward the weapon he thought was hidden under his vest. He actually thought he could fool an 80-year-old combat veteran. He didn't even get halfway through the motion. Boom! The shotgun blast shook the entire hallway. The smaller man flew backward, slamming into the entry table so hard the vase on top exploded into dust. His scream ripped through the house as he hit the floor, curling over the blood soaking into his shirt. The second fake HOA cop panicked. He spun toward his own weapon, but Grandpa had already racked the shotgun. Ka-chunk! Boom! The second shot tore into his shoulder and sent him crashing into the wall. A picture frame fell, shattered, and the man collapsed under it, gasping and shaking like every nerve in his body had caught fire. He tried to talk through the pain. "You're insane," he cried. "We were breaking into my house," Grandpa said coldly, stepping forward. "Say it." The man pressed, shaking hands to his wound, teeth chattering. "I can't." "I wasn't." Grandpa leaned closer, shotgun aimed straight at his chest. "Who sent you?" Silence. The smaller man tried lifting his head, but went limp. His body slumped sideways, eyes rolling back as he passed out, blood pooling fast under him. The second man stared at his partner in terror. Real raw terror, but still refused to answer. Grandpa didn't shout. He didn't threaten. He didn't need to. He grabbed the landline phone with one hand while never lowering the shotgun. 911, he said calmly. 2 intruders, both shot. Send deputies and medics. Urgent. Even through the pain, the conscious intruder flinched. He knew what was coming. People who impersonate law enforcement, kick indoors, carry illegal weapons, shoot or die trying. Judges don't go easy on them. And once these two learned the sentence waiting for them, they crack like dry branches in a bonfire. Sirens began echoing faintly in the distance. The injured man's breath hitched. Because now, he wasn't afraid of Grandpa's gun anymore. He was afraid of survival. Because if he lived long enough to reach the hospital, he'd have no choice but to confess who sent him. And Grandpa knew it. He stood in the hallway, shotgun still raised, and said quietly, "This isn't over, boy." Not even close. If you're enjoying this HOA story so far, like and subscribe, because the story is only going to get better. The sirens grew louder until the entire house pulsed with red and blue light. Grandpa didn't move from his stance. Not until the first deputy stepped through the ruined doorway with his weapon drawn. "Shotgun down, sir," the deputy ordered calmly. Grandpa nodded once, cracked the barrel open, dumped the shells into his palm, and set the gun gently on the floor. "He's down," Grandpa said, pointing with his chin toward the conscious intruder. "Other one's barely breathing." Paramedics rushed in next, dropping knee pads, ripping open trauma kits. One medic immediately checked the unconscious intruder. His pulse was weak, fading, blood spreading fast across the broken floorboards. "Critical," the medic said. "We need to move him now." They loaded him onto a stretcher, shouting vitals as they pushed him out the door. The second intruder, the one still conscious, was propped against the wall while another medic wrapped his shoulder. He winced, shook, gasped through every breath, and still not a single word. Deputy Harris knelt in front of him. "Name?" he demanded. No answer. "Who sent you?" Silence. Grandpa stepped beside them, arms crossed, staring down at the man like a disappointed father staring at a foolish son. "Best speak now," Grandpa said. "'Cause if your buddy dies, you're holding that bag alone." That hit him hard. The man's eyes darted around the room, chest rising fast, panic finally swallowing the last bit of bravado he had left. He's not supposed to die," the intruder choked out. "We were just scaring him. That's all. That's all we were supposed to do." "Who gave the order?" Harris pressed. The man broke. His voice cracked like a snapped branch. Karen Ton, HOA president," he blurted. "She said the old man was refusing inspections. She said to get inside however we had to. She said she'd protect us legally. Please, man," she said. "HOA cops can't get in trouble." Grandpa snorted. "Son, there ain't no such thing as an HOA cop." Two deputies exchanged looks. That name Ton was already well known. Complaints, threats, a forged violation letter months ago. Now this, get him loaded, Harris ordered. "He's going in for questioning." The medic nodded and helped him onto a gurney. But before they rolled him out, Grandpa stepped forward and looked him dead in the eyes. "You better tell the truth," he said. "Every bit of it." The man swallowed hard, nodded repeatedly, tears rolling down his cheeks as they wheeled him away. By early afternoon, everything blew open. The unconscious intruder never made it out of surgery. The surviving one, terrified and cornered, took a plea deal before midnight. He confessed to everything. Karen paid them cash. She forged inspection orders. She instructed them to intimidate homeowners. She promised legal immunity. She specifically targeted Grandpa's house. Deputies arrested Karen Ton at her HOA office. She tried to run, then tried to lie, then tried to blame the intruders, but the recorded confession sealed her fate. By morning, she was hit with conspiracy, home invasion, impersonating law enforcement, ordering armed entry into a residence, liability in the death of her own hired enforcer. She got 34 years in federal prison plus $60,000 in fines for property damage and medical restitution. The surviving fake HOA cop spent 7 weeks in the hospital and took a plea deal. So, he only got 4 years in prison for forced entry and impersonation, plus 3 years probation. The second fake HOA cop didn't survive his injuries, making Karen legally responsible for his death. And Grandpa, he just sat back in his recliner that evening, polished shotgun leaning beside him, calm as a man who'd lived this life before. He looked at me, smirked, and said, "Next time someone kicks my door, I will be waiting." Then he turned the page of his book like nothing happened. What do you think, folks? Did Grandpa do the right thing? What would you have done if 2 fake HOA cops kicked your door in? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear it.